Welcome to the Stronger with Age podcast, because aging is just the beginning. And today, we're diving deep into, I think, something that's super relevant to all of us as we age, the amazing connection between what we eat and how our brains stay sharp.
Absolutely.
You've all been sending in some incredible research.
Yeah.
We've kind of sifted through it all to bring you the
Yeah.
most interesting and impactful insights
We have some really cool stuff to dig into.
today. So,
Let's jump right in.
our mission today is to really unpack all this evidence that shows that the food choices you're making aren't just fueling your body, they're actually shaping your brain power, your mental well-being, and even the physical structure of your brain as you get older.
That's amazing.
We'll be looking at some of the major dietary patterns that scientists are studying and zeroing in on some specific nutrients that seem to play a key role.
I love it. Okay, so to kind of guide us through this deep dive,
Yeah.
we've got a few really great sources. First off, there's a large-scale study published in Nature Mental Health.
Which is a really well-respected journal. Them's going to look at a really comprehensive review from PMC that looked at tons of different clinical trials on diet and brain power.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some clear and actionable insights from the Bright Focus Foundation on eating for brain health.
Yes.
And finally, a report from SciPost that I think really brings home this connection between our diets and our minds.
Absolutely.
So much to cover. Let's get started with that Nature Mental Health study.
Perfect. You know what's so impressive about this study? Is the sheer number of people they included.
Yeah.
Over 180,000
It's a huge number.
older adults in the UK Biobank with an average age of about 70.
Wow.
So we're talking about a massive amount of data. And what
Yeah.
they found was a really strong link,
Yeah.
a really clear connection between eating a balanced diet and having a healthier brain as you age.
I'm not surprised. So how did they actually figure out what everyone was eating?
Well, they actually identified 4 different dietary patterns within this massive group. They labeled them starch-free, vegetarian, high protein, low fiber, and then the one we're really interested in, the balanced diet.
Okay, so 4 different patterns. And I'm guessing the balanced one came out on top.
Exactly. The individuals in that balanced diet group not only did better on cognitive tests, but they also reported better mental health overall. They had the lowest scores for any kind of mental health issues and the highest scores for overall well-being and cognitive function.
That's amazing. So it wasn't just about thinking clearly.
No, it was about feeling good too.
I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
So these balanced diets were linked to better scores on tests that looked at things like memory, reaction time, and problem-solving skills. So basically all the things we want to keep sharp as we age.
Right. It really seems like getting a wide variety of nutrients is crucial for keeping our brains in top shape and may even help protect against some of that age-related cognitive decline
That we all worry about.
that we hear so much about.
Okay, so it's not just about what we don't eat.
Exactly. It's about what we do eat and making sure we're getting a good mix of everything. And the benefits go beyond just thinking. Those who ate a balanced diet also said they had fewer symptoms of things like depression and anxiety.
Really?
So
Very.
it seems diet plays a role in our mental well-being too.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. They actually used brain imaging to look at the structure of people's brains.
Wow.
And what they found was that the group eating a balanced diet tended to have more gray matter in their brains. Now, gray matter is like the processing center of the brain.
Yeah.
It's where all the thinking, learning, and memory happen.
So seeing more gray matter
Yeah.
in the balanced diet group is a really good sign.
It's like they were giving their brains a real boost.
Yeah, it's like they were feeding their brains with all the right ingredients.
Okay, but what about the other groups?
Oh, right. The high protein, low fiber group, they actually reported lower well-being and more mental health issues. And they also had less gray matter in certain brain regions, like an area called the postcentral gyrus. Now, the postcentral gyrus, it plays a role in processing sensory information.
Okay. And then the vegetarian group?
Yes, they actually had more volume in 2 other areas, the thalamus and the precuneus, compared to the balanced group. Now, these regions are involved in things like relaying sensory information and memory.
Okay, so different diets, different effects on the brain. And it makes you wonder, what specific parts of these diets are causing these changes?
Right, and how do they impact brain structure over time? It's so fascinating now. The study went even deeper and looked at genetics.
Ooh.
They found 16 genes that were different between the high protein, low fiber group and the balanced group.
Mm.
And these genes are involved in things like mental health and cognitive function.
So our diets might even affect our genes.
It's a possibility. The high-protein, low-fiber group also had differences in over 100 biomarkers.
Okay, back up a second. What's a biomarker?
It's basically a measurable sign in your body
Mm-hmm.
that can tell us something about your health, like your blood pressure or cholesterol levels.
Got it.
So they found all these differences
Mm-hmm.
between the groups, suggesting that diet can really have a big impact on our overall health.
Yeah. This study just highlights how powerful our dietary choices can be.
It really does. The study authors were pretty clear about this. They said, we need to start educating people about healthy eating from a young age to support long-term brain health.
And that more research is needed across all age groups.
Absolutely. You know, it makes you wonder, if these dietary patterns have such a big impact in older adults, what kind of impact are they having earlier in life?
Right. Like if someone's been eating a high-protein, low-fiber diet since their 20s or 30s, what does that mean for their brain health down the road?
It's a question worth exploring. It really underscores the idea that what we eat throughout our lives can add up and affect our brains as we age.
Okay, so we've got this big picture view from a huge study. But what about when researchers actually test different diets and supplements in a more controlled setting?
Great point. Let's dive into that systematic review from PMC.
Okay.
They analyzed 61 randomized controlled trials
Wow.
published between 2018 and 2021. These trials looked at how specific diets, foods, and supplements affected thinking abilities in adults, some of whom had mild cognitive impairment, but not Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
It's a really comprehensive look at all the different things we can put in our bodies and how they might affect our brains.
So what were some of the key findings?
Well, they found that well-known diets, like the Mediterranean DHH and MIND diets, might help protect against cognitive decline. This really lines up with what we saw in those big population studies.
Right.
And some of the clinical trials they looked at back this up.
Okay, so those diets are still looking pretty good.
They really are. And they pointed to certain things within these diets, like lots of fruits, veggies, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and olive oil, as potentially contributing to better brain function.
It's all about those good fats and antioxidants.
Exactly. And they also talked about unsaturated fatty acids and antioxidants in reducing the risk of cognitive decline.
Okay, so those are the overall dietary patterns. But they also looked at ways to boost the Mediterranean diet.
Oh, how do they do that?
So some people got dietary counseling to follow a Mediterranean diet. And then they added things like lean pork, dairy, or high phenolic extra virgin olive oil.
Wow. So they were making it even more Mediterranean. And what happened?
Well, these enhanced diets actually led to improvements in processing speed and overall cognitive function in older adults.
Wow. So even within a healthy framework, there might be ways to fine-tune things.
Exactly, for even better results.
Okay, so let's move on to supplements.
Okay. This part of the review was super detailed. They looked at everything from protein building blocks like amino acids to vitamins, those colorful polyphenols, and the omega-3 fatty acids everyone's talking about.
So many different things.
It was a really comprehensive overview.
So what do they find?
Well, for protein and amino acids, certain supplements like MetLice propeptide, whey peptide, and beta-alanine seem to have some cognitive benefits, but often in specific areas like verbal fluency or hand-eye coordination.
Oh, interesting. So not a general boost, but more targeted effects.
Right. And there were supplements like anserine and carnosine that seem to improve cognition, specifically in people with the APOE4 plus genotype.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Isn't that the gene that increases your risk for Alzheimer's?
Exactly. So seeing a nutrient specifically benefit this group is pretty significant.
It's like personalized nutrition for the brain.
Exactly.
Okay. So what about vitamins?
Well, vitamin D, it was kind of a mixed bag. One study in people with mild cognitive impairment showed some improvement, but they didn't see those same benefits in people who were already cognitively healthy for vitamin B12. The review suggested it might protect the nervous system, either alone or when combined with folic acid. However, one study didn't show any effect, and they thought it might be because some of the participants were also taking medication for diabetes.
Oh, that's a good point. Our bodies are complex.
They are, and all these different things, medications, other health conditions, can influence how we respond to supplements.
Right. Okay, what about those polyphenols? Polyphenols are those colorful plant compounds found in things like blueberries, tart cherries, grapes, cocoa, curcumin, which is in turmeric, and even spearmint. They showed a lot of promise. in potentially slowing down age-related decline in memory and cognition. And that's likely because they have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties.
Those are always good.
They are. Now, for the omega-3 fatty acids.
The ones we hear so much about.
Right. The results were a little surprising. Most of the studies they looked at didn't show significant improvements in thinking skills.
Really? Even though omega-3s are good for the heart.
Yes. And they're often touted as brain boosters. And one study even found a small negative effect on something called psychomotor speed, which is how quickly you can perform certain tasks.
It's unexpected.
It is a bit surprising. Now, they did look at combinations of supplements, and some studies showed benefits in areas like executive function, attention, and processing speed, but these weren't consistent across the board.
Oh, man.
And one interesting finding was that taking folic acid together with DHA seemed to be more beneficial than either one alone.
So sometimes synergy is key.
It seems that way. And they also looked at some more unique supplements, like extracts from fungi and algae, things like Hericium erinaceus, also known as lion's mane mushroom, and different types of algae, as well as other plant extracts, magnesium, medium-chain triglycerides, and even a complex mix of antioxidants. All showed improvements in different areas of cognitive function.
That's amazing. So much to explore.
There really is.
The review also talked about why these dietary changes might help the brain. They focused on things like oxidative stress and inflammation.
Right. Oxidative stress is basically an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in your body. And inflammation is your body's natural response to injury or infection. But chronic inflammation can be harmful. And they pointed out that these two things, oxidative stress and inflammation, are big players in age-related cognitive decline.
Makes sense. And many of the diets and supplements that showed positive results were rich in things that fight these processes. So it's about reducing those harmful things.
Exactly. And they also suggested that the benefits of the Mediterranean diet might come from its ability to improve vascular health and regulate blood sugar.
Okay, so it's not just about the brain itself. It's about the whole body.
Right. Everything is connected.
So it sounds like there's a lot of promising research.
There is. But the scientists also said we need more rigorous studies to really confirm these findings.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be cautious and not jump to conclusions.
Exactly.
They pointed out that the studies they analyzed were pretty different in their designs, like the doses of supplements used.
The groups of people studied. And even how they measured cognitive changes. And this makes it hard to draw firm conclusions. So we need more large-scale, well-designed trials to really solidify these early findings.
Right. Okay, so we've got this massive population study and a deep dive into clinical trials. Now let's bring in some practical advice from the Bright Focus Foundation on eating for brain health.
I love their approach. It's so practical. They really emphasize how important nutrition is for maintaining cognitive function and overall brain health. And they highlight a few specific dietary patterns that have consistently shown benefits.
Okay, so these are the ones we've been talking about, the Mediterranean diet.
Right. It's a classic. Rich in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats like olive oil. And it's been linked to a lower risk of those neurodegenerative diseases.
The ones we're all trying to avoid.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the other two?
Well, there's the Mindy diet, which is kind of a hybrid of the Mediterranean and DIH diets. And it's specifically designed to support brain health and potentially reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease.
That sounds promising. And then there's the DIH diet.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is often recommended for managing blood pressure, but it also has benefits for the brain because it emphasizes whole unprocessed foods.
Okay, so all three of these diets, Mediterranean, Mindy, and DAH, provide a really good framework for supporting our cognitive function as we get older. So if someone's just starting out
and wants to try a Mediterranean-style diet, what are a couple of easy things they could do? One simple swap is to use olive oil instead of butter, and another is to try to include more fish in their meals.
Okay, so simple changes, but they can make a difference. Absolutely. Okay, so let's bring it all together. What does all this mean for our listeners? It's pretty clear that what you eat has a huge impact on your brain health as you age.
I agree. And all of our sources point to the benefits of a balanced and varied diet, one that's packed with fruits, veggies, whole grains, and healthy fats, much like the Mediterranean and Mindy diets.
And it's not just about those broad patterns. The research also shows that specific nutrients and plant compounds are being studied for their potential to support memory, attention, and overall cognitive function. So there's a lot to be excited about.
There is. And even though more research is always needed, What we've learned today gives you a good foundation for making informed choices about your diet.
And remember that study in Nature Mental Health? They actually found links between diet and the structure of the brain. It's incredible. It's not just about how well our brains work,
Right.
but also how they're physically built.
So, what does this mean for aging stronger? It means that taking care of your diet isn't just about physical health. It's a powerful way to protect and even enhance your cognitive well-being and keep your mind sharp for years to come. It's like investing in your future brain power.
Absolutely.
So we encourage you to think about incorporating the principles of a balanced diet into your everyday life. Maybe explore some recipes or resources related to the Mediterranean or Mind-By diets. Think about adding more of those brain-boosting foods, like colorful fruits and vegetables, healthy fats from olive oil and nuts, and wholesome whole grains into your meals. It's all about making those small, sustainable changes that add up over time.
Exactly. So here's a question for you. What's one small dietary change that you can make today or this week to start prioritizing your brain health? It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul, just one small step in the right direction. And see how it makes you feel.
Okay, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Bye.